The voice note came while I was signing the final papers. My mother's voice, cold and dismissive. "Don't come to Christmas dinner, Ava. Dad only wants the family there." I had just transferred $150,000 into their account to save their house from foreclosure. My signature was still wet on the loan documents. For 32 years, I believed I was building a relationship with my parents, that my sacrifices meant something. But that voice note wasn't just rejection. It was the beginning of discovering how deep their betrayal really went. Because what I found in their house 3 days later changed everything. And what I did about it will shock you. This is the story of how I turned from the forgotten daughter into the one they'll never forget. But before we continue, check if you're already subscribed to the channel and write in the comments. Where are you watching this video from? My name is Ava Williams. I'm 32 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. For the past 8 years, I've worked as a financial advisor, helping families secure their futures. The irony isn't lost on me now. 3 months before that voice note, my parents called me in tears. Dad's voice was shaking, Mom sobbing in the background. Their house in suburban Phoenix was going into foreclosure. 28 days to pay or lose everything. "Ava, sweetheart, we know it's a lot to ask," Dad said, his voice breaking. "But you're the only one who can help us. We raised you to be successful, and now we need that success to save our home." I didn't hesitate. $150,000. My entire savings account, plus a loan against my retirement fund. I wired it the next morning, watching my financial security disappear with a few keystrokes. "You saved our lives," Mom whispered when she called to confirm the transfer. "We don't know how we'll ever repay you, but you're our angel, Ava. Our hero." The gratitude felt warm, real. For the first time in years, I felt like I mattered to them. Like I was finally the daughter they could be proud of. I should have known better. I should have remembered the pattern. When I graduated summa cum laude from business school, they missed my ceremony for a casino weekend in Vegas. When I got my first promotion, they borrowed $5,000 for a medical emergency that turned out to be a kitchen renovation. When I bought my first house, they needed $10,000 for urgent repairs that coincidentally matched the cost of their new hot tub. But this felt different. This was their home, their security. This was family. The foreclosure notice I helped them avoid was real. I had seen it myself, official letterhead and everything. The fear in their voices was genuine. The tears were authentic. What I didn't know was that authenticity and truth aren't the same thing. 2 weeks after sending the money, I called to check on them. Mom answered, her voice bright and cheerful. "Oh, Ava, we're doing wonderful. The stress is gone, the house is safe. We can't thank you enough. I'm just glad I could help," I said. "How are you both feeling? I know this has been overwhelming." "Actually, we're feeling so good that we booked a little celebration trip. Nothing fancy, just a week in Sedona to decompress." My stomach tightened. "A trip? Mom, didn't you just use all your savings to avoid foreclosure?" "Well, we had a little bit left over from what you sent. We thought we deserved a small celebration after everything we've been through." Left over. From $150,000 for a foreclosure that required every penny. "How much was left over?" I asked carefully. "Oh, honey, don't worry about the details. You saved our house. That's what matters." I hung up, feeling uneasy, but pushed the feeling down. They deserved some happiness after such a terrifying experience. I was overthinking things. But then my cousin Rachel called. She lived in Phoenix, just 20 minutes from my parents. "Ava, I saw your mom at the spa yesterday. She was getting some expensive facial treatment, talking about how relaxed she's been lately. She mentioned they're going to Sedona for a week." "Yeah, she told me about the trip. She also mentioned they're thinking about buying a new car. Something about how their old car doesn't match their new lease on life. New car. After a foreclosure scare. After I had emptied my savings. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my bank statements, my loan documents, the confirmation of the wire transfer. $150,000. Gone. I opened my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I looked up public records for foreclosure notices in Phoenix. I searched their address, their names. the time frame they'd given me. The search results made my blood run cold. There was no foreclosure notice. Not for their address, not in their names, not in the past 6 months. I called in sick the next day and drove to Phoenix. 4 hours of desert highway, my mind racing with questions I didn't want answers to. I parked across from their house at 8 in the morning, watching through my windshield as they loaded suitcases into a brand new silver BMW SUV. The old Honda Civic was nowhere in sight. Dad was whistling. Mom was wearing a designer outfit I'd never seen before. They looked like people celebrating, not people who had narrowly escaped financial ruin. After they drove away, I walked to their front door and used the spare key they'd given me years ago for emergencies. The house felt different. Brighter. New furniture in the living room, a massive flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, fresh paint throughout. In the kitchen, granite countertops had been installed. The appliances were all stainless steel, still with warranty stickers on some of them. A stack of receipts sat on the counter, held down by a decorative stone. My hands shook as I flipped through them. Furniture store, $12,000. Electronics, $8,000. Kitchen renovation, $25,000. Car dealership, $42,000. All dated within the past month. All paid for in cash. I sat down heavily at their new kitchen table, my mind trying to process what I was seeing. The foreclosure was fake. The emergency was manufactured. My parents had used my money to upgrade their entire lifestyle. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was a folder I found in Dad's desk labeled tax planning. Inside were documents I didn't understand at first. Property assessments, insurance valuations, investment portfolios. They weren't broke. They weren't even close to broke. According to the documents, they had over $300,000 in various accounts and investments. The house was worth $450,000, with only $60,000 left on the mortgage. They didn't need my money. They wanted it. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands trembling with each click. Evidence, proof, documentation of the most calculated betrayal I'd ever experienced. As I was leaving, a neighbor approached me, Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman who'd lived next door for decades. "Ava, how nice to see you. Your parents are so excited about their renovations. They've been bragging about having such a successful daughter who's making all their dreams come true." I drove back to Denver in a fog of disbelief and rage. Every mile marker felt like another layer of deception peeling away. By the time I reached my apartment, I had moved past hurt into something colder, sharper. I spent the weekend organizing everything I'd found: bank transfers, receipts, property records, the fake foreclosure notice they must have created. I built a timeline, cross-referenced purchases with dates, documented every lie. Monday morning, I called a lawyer. "This is textbook financial fraud," Margaret Torres told me, reviewing my evidence. "But proving it was intentional deception rather than a misunderstanding will be challenging. Family cases always are. What would you need to make it airtight? A confession, documentation of intent, something that shows they knew they were deceiving you." I left her office with a plan forming in my mind. If they thought I was naive enough to be their personal ATM, they were about to learn how wrong they were. That Thursday, exactly 2 weeks before Christmas, I called my parents. "Hi, Mom. I was thinking about coming to Phoenix for Christmas. I could stay a few days, help you both settle in after everything you've been through." "Oh, sweetheart, that would be wonderful. We'd love to have you. Christmas dinner will be so much better with our hero there. I can drive down on the 23rd. Would that work?" "Perfect. I'll make your favorite cookies." Everything felt normal, loving even. They were still playing their parts perfectly. But then, 23 hours before I was supposed to leave, my phone buzzed with a voice message from Mom. I played it while sitting on my couch, Christmas presents already wrapped and waiting by the door. "Ava, honey, I'm so sorry, but we've decided Christmas should just be family this year. Dad's feeling overwhelmed with everything that's happened, and he thinks it would be better if it was just the two of us. I hope you understand. Maybe we can do something in January instead. Just family." As if I wasn't family. As if the daughter who had saved their house wasn't worthy of Christmas dinner. But there was something else in her voice. something satisfied, almost smug, like she was enjoying the power of excluding me. I played the message 3 more times, each replay revealing new layers of cruelty. I sat in my living room, staring at the wrapped presents I'd bought for them. A cashmere scarf for Mom, a leather wallet for Dad. Thoughtful gifts purchased with money I could barely afford after emptying my savings for them. The voice note had been sent at 2:15 in the afternoon, on a Tuesday, while I was in a client meeting, helping another family plan for their financial future. I called Rachel, my hands shaking with rage. "They uninvited me from Christmas," I said without preamble. "What? Why?" "Because Dad wants it to be just family. Apparently, I don't qualify." Rachel was quiet for a long moment. "Ava, there's something I need to tell you. I didn't want to interfere, but I saw them at the casino last weekend. They were at the high-stakes table, throwing around money like they owned the place. Mom was wearing jewelry I'd never seen before." "What kind of jewelry?" "Diamond earrings, a tennis bracelet, the kind that costs more than most people's cars." I closed my eyes, the full picture finally coming into focus. They hadn't just stolen my money. They were flaunting it, celebrating with it, living their best life with my life savings. "Rachel, I need a favor. Can you drive by their house tomorrow and take pictures of everything? The car, any new purchases you can see, any signs of how they're living?" "Of course. But Ava, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to stop being their victim." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, making lists, checking facts, building a case. Not just for the lawyer, but for myself. I needed to see the full scope of their betrayal laid out in black and white. By morning, I had 37 documented lies spanning 8 years. 37 times they had manipulated me for money. 37 times I had chosen to believe them over my own instincts. The pattern was clear, escalating. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Testing my limits, pushing my boundaries, conditioning me to be their financial solution. But this time was different. This time they had overplayed their hand. Because the daughter they thought they could discard was about to become their worst nightmare. I took the week between Christmas and New Year's off work. Officially for vacation. Actually for war preparation. Tuesday morning, I drove back to Phoenix. This time, I wasn't coming as their daughter. I was coming as an investigator. I parked in a different spot, 3 blocks away, and walked through their neighborhood like I belonged there. I documented everything. The new BMW in the driveway, the professional landscaping that hadn't been there a month ago, the outdoor furniture that cost more than my monthly rent. Mrs. Henderson was checking her mail when I approached. "Oh, Ava, I'm surprised to see you. Your mother said you couldn't make it for Christmas because you were dealing with your own financial problems." My own financial problems. The money I'd given them had somehow become my financial problems in their narrative. "Really? What else did she say?" "Well, she mentioned that you've been struggling since you helped them out. She seemed worried about you, actually. Said something about how generous children sometimes give more than they can afford." They were rewriting history, making themselves the concerned parents and me the irresponsible daughter who had overextended herself helping them. I spent the afternoon at the county clerk's office, pulling property records, tax filings, and mortgage documents. Everything was public record if you knew where to look. The truth was worse than I'd imagined. Their house had been refinanced 6 months ago. They'd pulled out $200,000 in equity, money they'd used for investments and improvements. They weren't facing foreclosure. They were sitting on more liquid cash than I'd ever had in my life. The foreclosure notice they'd shown me was a fake, professionally created to look authentic. They'd gone to significant effort to deceive me. But the most damaging discovery came from their tax returns. Dad had been claiming me as a financial dependent for the past 3 years, getting tax breaks for supporting his financially struggling daughter. They weren't just stealing from me. They were stealing from the government using me as justification. That evening, I called Detective Williams with the Phoenix Police Department. He specialized in financial crimes and elder abuse cases. "What you're describing is fraud, potentially at the felony level depending on the amounts involved," he told me. "But family financial cases are complex. Are you prepared for this to become public? For your relationship with your parents to be permanently destroyed? Detective, they destroyed our relationship when they decided to steal from me. I'm just making it official. Wednesday morning, I implemented phase 1 of my plan. I called Mom, making my voice sound shaky and uncertain. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. I've been looking at my finances and I think I may have made a mistake lending you that money. What do you mean, sweetheart? Her voice was instantly cautious. I mean, I don't think I can afford to not get paid back. My own bills are piling up, and I'm starting to panic about my financial situation. Long silence. Then, Ava, that money was a gift. You said it was a gift to help family. I never said it was a gift. I said I was helping you avoid foreclosure. That's a loan, Mom. I need it back. We can't just come up with $150,000 overnight. We use that money to save our house. It's not like we can just pull it out of thin air. But you bought a new car, and renovated the kitchen, and went to Sedona. Another silence, longer this time. Those were necessary expenses. The old car broke down, and we needed the kitchen work done for health reasons. Lie after lie, delivered with practiced conviction. She had an answer for everything because she'd probably rehearsed this conversation. Mom, I need at least some of it back. Can you give me $50,000 by next month? Absolutely not. We don't have that kind of money. Ava, I'm disappointed in you. We raised you to be generous, to help family when they're in need. Now you're trying to put conditions on your help after the fact. I'm trying to pay my own bills with my own money. Your own money? Sweetheart, you're successful because we raised you right. Because we sacrificed for your education. That money is just coming back to the people who invested in you first. There it was. The justification. They had convinced themselves that my success belonged to them, that my money was rightfully theirs. So you're saying you'll never pay me back? There's nothing to pay back. You helped your parents when they needed it. That's what family does. I recorded every word. Thursday afternoon, I knocked on their front door. Mom answered, her face immediately shifting from surprise to guilt to defensiveness in the span of 3 seconds. Ava, what are you doing here? I thought we agreed. We need to talk, all 3 of us. Dad appeared behind her, his expression wary. Ava, if this is about money, it's about a lot more than money. May I come in? They exchanged a look, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Mom stepped aside. I sat at their new kitchen table, my folder of evidence in my lap. They sat across from me, united in their defensiveness. I know about the refinancing, I said without preamble. I know about your actual financial situation. I know the foreclosure notice was fake. Dad's face went pale. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. I know about the tax returns where you claim me as a dependent while I'm supposedly giving you gift money. I know about the $300,000 you have in various accounts and investments. Ava, Mom's voice was pleading now. You don't understand the full situation. I understand that you created a crisis that didn't exist to steal money from your daughter. I understand that you excluded me from Christmas after I saved your fictional house. I understand that you've been bragging to the neighbors about having a successful daughter while simultaneously planning to keep every penny I gave you. I opened my folder and spread the documents across their expensive new table. Bank statements, property records, the fake foreclosure notice, photos of their purchases. I also understand that what you did is called fraud, and it's a felony in Arizona. Dad finally found his voice. You can't prove intent. Wrong thing to say. Because it confirmed that he knew exactly what they'd done was illegal. Actually, I can. Because I recorded our phone conversation yesterday where you admitted you never intended to pay me back and justified keeping my money because you raised me. Mom started crying, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of being caught. What do you want? Dad asked, his voice flat. I want my money back, all of it, plus interest, plus damages for the fraud. We don't have it anymore. We spent it. Then you'll figure out how to get it. Sell the car, refinance the house again, liquidate your investments. I don't care how you do it. And if we refuse? I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then I'll see you in court. And in prison. The next morning my phone rang at 6 a.m. Mom's voice was frantic. Ava, we need to meet. We can work something out. I'm listening. Can you come to the house? We have a proposal. I arrived an hour later to find them both dressed like they were going to a funeral. The BMW was gone from the driveway. We returned the car, Dad said without meeting my eyes. And we've contacted a real estate agent about refinancing the house again. Good start. What else? Mom slid a piece of paper across the table. We can give you $75,000 by the end of next month. The rest will have to be paid in installments. I looked at their proposal. $75,000 immediately, then $5,000 a month for 15 months. No interest, no penalties, no acknowledgement of fraud. Counteroffer, I said, pulling out my own document. $150,000 immediately, plus $50,000 in damages, plus a written confession admitting fraud, plus a promise to never contact me again except through lawyers. That's ridiculous, Dad exploded. We're your parents. You stopped being my parents when you decided to steal from me. We raised you. We loved you. You exploited me. There's a difference. Mom tried a different approach. Sweetheart, families shouldn't treat each other this way. Can't we find some middle ground? The middle ground was when I believed your lies and gave you my life savings. We've moved past middle ground. I stood to leave. You have 72 hours to accept my offer. After that, the police get involved. Wait, Dad called as I reached the door. What if we can't get that much money together that quickly? Then you'll learn what real financial pressure feels like. The kind you pretended to experience when you manipulated me. I left them sitting at their kitchen table, surrounded by evidence of their deception, finally understanding that their victim had become their judge. That afternoon, Rachel called me. I saw your parents at the bank. They looked terrible, like they hadn't slept in days. Your mom was crying in the parking lot. Good, I said, and meant it. Ava, are you sure about this? They are your parents. Rachel, they made their choice when they created a fake crisis to steal from me. I'm just making sure there are consequences. Saturday morning, they called. We accept your terms, Dad said, his voice defeated. But we need more time to get the money together. How much more time? 2 weeks. The refinancing takes time, and we need to liquidate some investments. Fine, 2 weeks. But I want the confession now. What kind of confession? A written statement admitting you created a fake foreclosure notice to defraud me of $150,000, signed by both of you, witnessed, and notarized. We can't put that in writing. It would be admitting to a crime. You did commit a crime. The writing just makes it official. Long silence. Then Mom's voice, barely audible. We'll do it. Tuesday afternoon, I met them at a notary's office. They had aged years in the past week. Dad's hands shook as he signed the document. Mom cried silently through the entire process. The confession was simple and damning. We, Robert and Linda Williams, acknowledge that we created false documents to convince our daughter, Ava Williams, that our house was facing foreclosure. We used these false documents to obtain $150,000 from her under false pretenses. We never intended to repay this money and planned to keep it as compensation for raising her. We understand this constitutes fraud and accept responsibility for our actions. The notary asked them twice if they were signing voluntarily. Both times they confirmed yes. As we left the office, Mom grabbed my arm. Ava, can't we still be a family after this? Can't we move past it? I looked at her, this woman who had given birth to me, raised me, and then systematically exploited me for years. Mom, you chose money over family. You excluded me from Christmas after I saved you from a crisis you created. You planned to keep my money while claiming I was financially irresponsible. There's no moving past that. But we're sorry now. We realize we made mistakes. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Dad finally spoke up. What happens now? After we pay you back? Now you live with the consequences of your choices. And I live free from yours. 2 weeks later, they transferred $200,000 into my account. The full amount plus damages, just as we'd agreed. I immediately called Detective Williams to report the case closed, providing him with copies of everything including their written confession. We'll keep this on file, he told me. If they try something like this with someone else, we'll have documentation of a pattern. The money felt different going back into my account than it had felt leaving it. It wasn't just repayment, it was justice. But the real satisfaction came 3 days later, when Rachel called with news from Phoenix. "Your parents are selling the house," she said. "The for sale sign went up yesterday, and Mrs. Henderson said they're moving to a small apartment across town." "Good." She also mentioned that your mom applied for a job at the department store. At 61 years old, she's going back to work for the first time in decades. For years, they had lived off their manipulation skills, using me as their primary income source. Now they were learning what real work felt like. "How do you feel about all this?" Rachel asked. "I feel free," I said, and realized it was completely true. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a vacation for myself. A real vacation. Not the budget trips I'd been taking while sending my money to Phoenix. 2 weeks in Italy, staying in nice hotels, eating at good restaurants, enjoying my own money without guilt or obligation. As I browsed flights and accommodations, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is your father. We wanted you to know we're proud of how strong you've become. Maybe someday we can rebuild our relationship." I stared at the message for a long time, considering my response. Finally, I typed back, "Strength isn't something I became. It's something I always had. I just stopped letting you exploit it." Then I blocked the number and went back to planning my vacation. 6 months later, I was a different person. Not because of what they'd done to me, but because of what I'd done about it. I'd started a side consulting business, helping other people recognize and escape financial manipulation by family members. Surprisingly, it was more common than I'd realized. My first client was a man whose brother had been borrowing money for fake emergencies for 15 years. My second was a woman whose adult children had convinced her to mortgage her house to fund their failed business ventures. Each case reminded me that what I'd experienced wasn't unique, but my response to it was uncommon. Most people stayed trapped in cycles of manipulation because confronting family felt impossible. "How did you find the courage to fight back?" clients would ask me. I realized that letting them steal from me wasn't love, it was cowardice, I would tell them. Real love sometimes requires real consequences. The consulting work was fulfilling in a way my regular job had never been. I was using my financial expertise to help people reclaim their lives from predators who happened to share their DNA. One Thursday evening, I was reviewing a new client's case when my phone rang. Rachel's name on the caller ID. "Ava, I have news about your parents. They're getting divorced." I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness, not surprise, just nothing. "Apparently, the stress of everything that happened broke them," Rachel continued. "Your mom blames your dad for pushing the fraud too far. Your dad blames your mom for being too greedy. They're each claiming the other one was the mastermind." "Sounds about right," I said. "They were always more committed to manipulation than to each other. Your mom wants your new phone number. She says she has things she wants to explain to you." "No. Ava." She seemed really broken up about. "Rachel, they had 32 years to be honest with me. They chose manipulation instead. They don't get to rewrite history now that it's cost them everything." That night, I looked through old photos of family gatherings, birthdays, holidays. In every picture, I looked happy but tired, like someone working hard to earn love that was always just out of reach. I threw all the photos away, not out of anger, but out of acceptance. Those people in the pictures were strangers to me now. 1 year after the voice note that changed everything, I received an unexpected call. It was Detective Williams from Phoenix. "Ms. Williams, I wanted to let you know that your parents were arrested yesterday for insurance fraud. They filed a false claim about a break-in at their apartment." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. They claimed $20,000 worth of electronics and jewelry were stolen, but the apartment complex's security cameras showed no one entering or leaving their unit. When we searched the premises, we found all the supposedly stolen items hidden in their storage unit." I shook my head in amazement. They hadn't learned anything. They'd just found new victims to defraud. "The confession you provided last year established a pattern of fraudulent behavior," Detective Williams continued. "It's going to make the prosecution's case much stronger." After hanging up, I sat in my Denver apartment, looking out at the mountains, thinking about patterns and choices and consequences. They had taught me that love wasn't something you earned through sacrifice. Real love was something you gave and received freely, without manipulation or conditions. They had taught me that family wasn't about blood relations. Family was about people who celebrated your successes instead of exploiting them, who included you instead of excluding you, who built you up instead of bleeding you dry. Most importantly, they had taught me that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them face the full consequences of their choices. That evening, I called Rachel with news of my own. "I'm getting married," I told her. "What? To who? When did this happen?" "His name is Michael. He's a teacher, and he's kind, and he's never asked me for a penny. We've been dating for 6 months, and he proposed last weekend." "Ava? That's wonderful. Are you going to invite your parents to the wedding?" I laughed, a sound that felt light and free. "Rachel, my parents aren't part of my life anymore. They haven't been since the day they chose money over family. This wedding is about celebrating love, not accommodating manipulation." The wedding was small, intimate, filled with people who loved us without conditions or hidden agendas. People who celebrated our happiness instead of calculating how they could profit from it. As Michael and I exchanged vows, promising to support each other through good times and bad, I thought about the voice note that had started my journey to freedom. "Don't come to Christmas dinner, Ava. Dad only wants the family there." They were right about one thing. Dad did only want family there. And I had finally learned the difference between family and relatives. Family doesn't steal from you and call it love. Family doesn't exclude you after exploiting you. Family doesn't make you choose between your financial security and their approval. Family supports you, celebrates you, and loves you without asking what's in it for them. It took 33 years to learn that lesson, but it was worth every painful moment of education. Because sometimes the people who hurt you the most teach you the most valuable lessons. How to recognize your worth, how to demand respect, and how to walk away from anyone who treats you as anything less than family, even if they happen to be your parents. If you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about turning survival into strength and strength into freedom.